Hello everyone and welcome back to the EA Sports Creator Series on this beautiful Friday, and that can only mean one thing. Of course it is time for F2, and for the first time on F1 24 I'm delighted to say we'll be paying a visit to the newly remodeled Spa-Francorchamps circuit in the Ardennes Forest of Belgium. A hugely exciting time. I think you can all agree, a beautiful circuit, and hopefully we'll be seeing some beautiful racing action as we have seen in the past couple of weeks. I think it is fair to say that. Filling the spaces in the virtual commentary box for this evening's action, or this afternoon, or this morning, wherever you are. It is myself, Tom, and it is Monkey Matt Smith. How are you doing, fella?
I'm absolutely excited to get into this one. I love this F2 series. You know, I commentated one in the past, but I've watched a few, and like you say, it has been getting exciting. Last week in particular was a thrill. So if we've got half that much action this week, I'm looking forward to it in a big way.
And we're on a fantastic circuit. Before we go into a little bits of news, which some of you may have seen if you're on the Creator Series social media pages, which you should be, of course. Thoughts on Spa? Got to be positive thoughts, surely.
Oh, it's a fun track, isn't it? Everyone loves a bit of Spa action. It always can produce results, and there's a lot of, I guess, long straights and tight corners that give you those overtaking chances as well. So whether these drivers use that to be a bit more patient, or are we still going to see those big moves early on? I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, looking forward to it massively, especially, as I said, it is remodeled for this year's game, the first time in a long while, and hopefully that makes the racing even better. Have had a couple of patches as well in recent weeks, so drivers may still be acclimatised to that though, but we do have some pretty significant news about the championship leader, don't we?
Absolutely. I think it's, like you say, exciting. Lolanova, we all know, has been the championship leader, has been quite dominant with that recent form, and has earned themselves a promotion up into the Formula 1 Creator Series. So we're going to see them racing tomorrow instead of tonight.
Yeah, Lolanova clearly the runaway leader this season. If we look over to the drivers' standings, I think the lead is 80 points around about halfway through the season. Haven't finished lower than second in a feature race. 1-4 finished second in 2, and only failed to score once, which was the sprint race in Austria, which was a very out of character P15. But I think we'll all be delighted to see who they're replaced by. It is the legend that is F1 Scott, returning back to F2 where he made his name.
Yeah, absolutely excited to see them back in the series. We've seen them actually fill in as reserve a couple of times this season already, so they're familiar a little bit with F2, but now they can really get to know this car and see if they can progress. We're going to be keeping an eye on how they go through the rest of the season.
It does mean we've got a nice, interesting little tussle for what is technically second place in the championship, but could still be the actual F2 championship. We've got Dragonflies currently in second, technically leading the way, although we're going to continue to count Lolanova in there on 123 points. Then we've got Adam Sanson on 113, level with F1 Alex, who was actually the most consistent driver up until last week in Hungary, where he had a bit of a stinker. P13 in the sprint race was the first time he failed to score points this season, and then a DNF in the feature race, meaning that he finds himself level with Adam Sanson and now behind Dragonflies. Crix and Dark Viper, two reserves also in there. They came first and third in the feature race last week in Hungary as well, and came first and second in the sprint race also, so some good form for those guys. Anyone else that you're keeping your eye on though, Matt?
No, I think I was going to say some of the drivers you mentioned there. We're seeing the reserve drivers getting a lot of sort of running in this series. So some of those drivers, Krzyzix has done superbly well, great momentum the last couple of weeks, and Dark Viper as well. Those two have been close. So I think it's almost like a battle of the reserves versus the regular drivers at the moment.
Yeah, delighted to say as well, seeing the chat, Mr. Dale's with us, the F2 legend, championship winner from last season.
Sorry,
season on F1 23.
We are going to interrupt you there.
Yes.
Go ahead. We are straight into the racing action. It's a sprint race, and it is in the wet. And this is there off the line. We are racing away in the F2 series, down into turn 1 at Spa. And 3 wide action through here already. See if they can get through there. Clearly there was tight on the apex. Someone might have climbed into the wall a little bit there. But in the wet, this is going to be so tricky.
Absolutely, and Patterson's done really well in that van. I thought to keep hold of the lead on the run up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Hoodie Peak holding second ahead of B-Roy. Look at how wet it is. Shades of 2022 as B-Roy and Zach RC almost go side by side through Eau Rouge and Radion. And now it's the Rodin Carlin of Zach RC who is going to move up into third place there, relegating B-Roy down a position. Lots of swapping for position though in the pack further back.
Yeah, it's all go at the start, of course. These sprint races reverse grids based on the championship order. So that means we have, in theory, faster drivers at the back trying to make their way through the field. And it's a good opportunity for some of those drivers who haven't scored so many points to try and be up the pointy end. At the moment, it's Patterson getting away a little bit because we see this battle into third place. B-Roy wants it down the inside. And on these wet tyres, they're just about got enough grip to get through there, side by side as well.
Yeah, Dark Viper getting stuck in. We've got a huge cluster of cars batting for what I think is probably the lower reaches of the top 10 at the moment, fighting for those top 8 points paying positions. We've got Chesnoid in there, F1 Alex, F2 Scott this week as well, along with Luke Howard, his teammate, all scrapping very hard. It's Bamford who's actually been relegated down to the back of the pack and has become detached with a little bit of front wing damage in that empty motorsport car as well.
And just look at this visibility. There is so much spray being kicked up off these cars. Of course, in the F2, a little bit slower than F1, but still, the aero has enough of an effect that, you know, it's going to be so tough out there for these drivers. And hopefully they've done their practice into the wet conditions, so they're ready for this.
Yeah, and a little bit of a gap forming as well. You can see Pondon struggling through Stabilo, currently sat in 7th place. Ches all over the back of him in the Trident car. He's got to be careful because F1 Alex, a very shrewd operator in the midfield as well, running the back of Ches also. And then you've got F1 Scott, like I said, in 10th place. So I think that was F1 Scott going a little bit wide there, further back. And B-Roy all over the back of Hoodie Pete as well in the battle for 2nd and 3rd place.
Patterson just getting a little bit of a lead on this first lap. Has had it probably the most comfortable of the field. But the rest of the pack, look how close this is here. The fight's on for 2nd. B-Roy wants it, getting held up through the corner. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Big contact, big cluster effect going through the bus stop. Hoodie Pete a bit slow, B-Roy into the back of him, and then Dark Viper into the back of him. Dragonfly's involved as well, and then Zach RC being pushed down to 6th. I think he was starting on the front row in that rolling car. Paul and F1 Alex debating 7th and 8th into last source as well. F2 Scott trying to muscle his way in there with Chesnoid Gaming, who's lost a couple of places there. A very admirable spectator. He's going to try and get 9th place back from F2 Scott, going up the run up the hill into Radion and Eau Rouge, and that is going to be 9th place still held for F2 Scott. Ches was brave, but he wasn't quite bold enough to make that move stick as F1 Alex and Pondon continue to scrap going down the Kebble Straight.
Oh, it's all go, isn't it? They hit it in there side by side to Radion. Managed to figure it out. But like you say, brave and bold moves at the moment. Oh, look at that, down the inside. There's contact between a few of the cars. Getting nudged a little bit wide. Still just light contact, it looked like. But yeah, like you say.
Still very messy. It was Dragonflies who took a trip off the road. Dark Viper trying to muscle his way through. Hoodie Pete, stern defense to hold on to that 2nd place, but I think he's just about going to lose out as Dark Viper in that Invictus swings it around the outside to get ahead of the Prayer of Hoodie Pete, Dragonflies, B-Roy and Zach RC. Look how close they are together. It's B-Roy in that Campos who's going to go up the inside into No Name corner. Dragonflies going to have to defend this very hard on the run up towards Puon, but I think it's going to be the Campos coming out in front. Yes, it is.
So Dark Viper, they're making their way through. B-Roy was fighting Hoodie for so long, we thought he was going to try and get through, but Dark Viper's got past both of them.
Zach RC is backwards. Zach RC is backwards going through Puon, and that is a huge shame for the driver that started, I believe, on the front row in the rolling car, down to last place. No front wing damage, thankfully, but yeah, relegated all the way down. F1 Alex continue to scrap very hard in that 2nd Prema, trying to catch up to his teammate who's already lost 1.2 seconds to Dark Viper, who is flying in these conditions in that Invicta car. F1 Alex certainly getting stuck in, trying to battle through the field.
Oh, a little bit of a moment in the background. Who was that? Someone running very wide. B-Roy, perhaps. So after fighting for 2nd place, losing out in these treacherous conditions, proving it tough, and the mistakes coming into it a little bit. But like you say, Dark Viper, once he's gotten through, getting away, it seems to be Hoodie Pete has held up the field a little bit. He's been a little bit of the cork in the bottle, blocking these drivers. He has got a gap right at the moment, but oh, look how close that Red Bull is straight away through the chicane.
Messi again into the bus stop. B-Roy's actually got some damage down in 8th place now after starting from pole position. Got Ches all over the back of him. Infratic in the Van Alsways up into the top 10 at the expense of F2 Scott. Adam Sanson hasn't made the progress you would like. He's actually sending it up the inside of every single car into last source and making contact a little bit with the side pod of the Van Alsways of Infratic, but does manage to get away with it without any severe damage for both of the cars, and they'll continue on the run up the hill towards Eau Rouge, and that's Radion actually.
And here we go, another chance for another move here. Hoodie again on the defensive. Oh, on the grass a little bit there from Dragonflies. Trying to find space to get up the inside. They're all trying to squeeze through. They want an opportunity here, but there's not enough room. They're only going to fit too wide. There's Dragonflies up the inside, but are we going to see Alex? I think it is. F1 Alex trying to squeeze through at the same time. Oh no, there's contact.
Contact. huge disappointment as Prama's Civil War, and Hoodie Pete has certainly come off worse as he tumbles down the field into what will probably be last place, although Zach RC will contend for that in the battle for the wooden spoon as F1 Alex muscling his way through down the Kebble Straight and into Lacombe. It was shades of 2018, wasn't it, when we had 4 wide down there straight almost, with Hamilton, Vettel, the 2 Force Indias, or they may have been racing points at that point. I can't quite remember if Perez and Ocon. That was brilliant racing, and in the end got a little bit messy. Hoodie Pete, though, is still very much within the pack. Didn't go full 360 degrees and able to recover to 14th, but certainly out of position now to battle for what will potentially be some very minor points.
Yeah, disaster there, and you've got to be disappointed. You feel for Hoodie, who was holding on so well for so long in this race. And although in saying that, it is still only lap 3 of 9, so it is a sprint race, but there's still plenty of time to unfold here. So with this pack still so close, plenty of time to make some moves and try to come back through the field.
Yeah, some of the fast drivers have made their way towards the front, and Patterson is getting reeled in by a Dark Viper. That gap is now just over a second. Couple more F2 goats in the chat. Got Watts in there, along with TK. To return to the action now, I think Dark Viper in that Invicta car is going to be all over the back of Patterson very, very shortly indeed. And then we've got a huge group of cars lined up behind what is Dragonflies in that final spot on the podium, ahead of F1 Alex and then Cricks in 5th. B-Roy dropping a little bit further back, although surviving very nicely, considering he has got a bit of front wing damage.
Yeah, so we might, I was going to say a little bit of a slide there from B-Roy after we said he was doing it right. And actually, he might come under pressure as a result of that as well. We got Ponton closing in behind, right in the middle of that spray at the moment, getting a little bit of a slipstream down the straight. Not quite close enough to make a move into the first corner, but enough pressure that B-Roy's gone deep. And now it's about the exit pace. Can you get the pedal to the metal on the exit? And I think maybe that deep line could have been intentional, because he has got a great run now coming up to Eau Rouge.
Yeah, we've got to watch the battle for 3rd and 4th as well. F1 Alex almost lost 4th going down into La Source turn number 1, but the Prema managing to get it back, and he's actually going to be relegated again with Cricks in that PHM car. Having a little look around the outside, he has managed to get a little bit of that front wing alongside. We are going to drag race down towards Lacombe now, who is going to be the last of the late breakers in these treacherous conditions. Bit of a slide there for the driver in the PHM car, and F1 Alex will hold on to that. Out in front though, changing hands for the lead as Patterson relinquishes it very nice and easy for Dark Viper, who does get up into 1st place. Will probably fly away now with the pace that Invicta car is showing.
Yeah, it looks like he's got plenty of speed, although Patterson's not giving up on it, just showing the nose a little bit here into No Name Corner. Doesn't quite have a chance to make a move, but Dark Viper's going to be kept honest, I think. Has to try and run clean lines now to stay out in front. And I was going to say, Dark Viper, one of those drivers who was threatening Lola Nopa when Lola Nopa was running the series the last few weeks. Dark Viper has really come on strong. So now without that one extra driver at the front, he is just looking to take control here at Spa.
Yeah, and B-Roy, the only driver inside the top 8 with a penalty, is going to have to be careful that that doesn't throw him all the way downfield. He's got 2 Tridents very close behind him. The first one is Chesnoid Gaming, who's moved up 1 place from their starting position of 8th, and then it's Adam Sanson, currently 3rd in the championship, trying to pick up as many points as possible in this Spa sprint race as we just reached the half distance. Longest track, or one of the longest tracks on the calendar, over 7 kilometres. F1 Alex, so is under pressure once again.
As we switch to getting a look at F1 Alex, and these penalties starting to play a role as well. All the off tracks, you've got to try to keep it clean. It's extra difficult in the wet, but sometimes just being a little bit more reserved, not getting a penalty, will pay off at the end of the race. And certainly it's hard to be thinking about that when you're in a battle like this one. You want to just be pushing to the maximum to try and get the positions on track. You can't afford it to be going off too often. And again, like you say, Krizix putting the pressure here on F1 Alex. Krizix, actually one of the drivers we see, really one of the top drivers, always getting towards the pointy end. Maybe these wet conditions not working in their favor. They haven't been able to cut through the field quite as quickly as someone like Dark Viper, but they're looking to get one more position here, down the straight, side by side again. Doesn't quite have the slipstream though, and drops back in.
Yeah, F1 Alex comfortably able to hold on to 4th place there. Probably identifying the difference in setups and winning levels. Just behind them though, Ches is trying to make a move up the inside of B-Roy into the Lacombe chicane, but the slightly damaged Campos car able to hang it around the outside with clearly more front end than Ches there. Somehow does a brilliant job to hold on to 6th place, and then Ches, who was looking directly in front of him, now potentially going to have to look in his mirrors, and his teammate will be chomping at the bit to try and force his way through and pick up another position, and almost getting that second Trident alongside.
Yeah, we see the teammates close out on the track at the moment. Something we don't see a whole lot of in the F2 series is team orders. We always see these drivers fighting out. I think we saw contact early on between teammates as well as they were battling. And that looks like it's the same case right here as they're both going at it. Chesnoy's going to get the first chance to attack, but a little bit of a slide means he's vulnerable here. Down into the next corner, defends the inside. Is going to be able to hang on for at least another moment.
Multitasking skills being tested here for Ches. He's going from attack to defence in the matter of just a few corners. I think he'll be looking further forward once again as we get this straight, or the kinked straights, if you like, coming through Stabilo and up towards Blanchimont. I think this could be another opportunity to try and maybe get a little bit of slipstream just behind them. That is Adam Sanderson going wide. Biro, I think, went wide as well. Infratics up into the top 8 with that little mistake from Adam Sanderson, and Ches making the most of the mistake made by Biro as well. That front wing damage clearly hindering that Campos. Through goes Ches, and he is up from 8th on the grid, now into 6th comfortably inside those top 8 point scoring positions.
Yep, absolutely nice. Oh, is that a little bit of a contact there onto brakes? I think they got away with it there, but as you were just saying there, top 8 scoring points in this race. Of course, it's the top 15 then who will score. In the longer feature race, we will see strategy come into it. Don't see strategy in the sprint race. I think it is just going to stay very wet here in Spa. No, we're not going to get any dry running at the end or anything like that. And so we're just going to have a straight sprint for the next 4 laps now as we continue to wind through the laps in this race.
Yeah, B-Roy's tumbling down into 10th now, got swallowed up like we saw going into the bus stop. Had a bit of a squirm on going through that corner and then dropping a whole host of places. The battle for the final spot on the podium is going to continue because F1 Alex is making a move along the outside of Dragonflies. He's going to try and outbrake him down the Kemmel Straight and into the Lake Com chicane. Bit of a slide for Dragonflies in the high tech on the inside curve. Got to be careful. Crix is in there as well, who's going to nip past both of them. How opportunistic is this in the wet weather conditions? It's Dragonflies who's been mugged by 2 cars. F1 Alex somehow staying 4th. It's Crix in the PHM car, who says thank you very much, no invitation needed, and that is a podium for him. But we've got an absolute car park behind, I think.
Oh, if we lost V-Roy there by the looks of it, I think something might have gone a little bit wrong. Well off into the fence, and looks like they're going to be able to rejoin. The late safety car would have been dramatic, but I think we're going to get back underway, and it is gone. From a great start there for B-Roy, just continue to be undone, and ended in the worst way possible with the crash.
Yeah, from the front row down into last place. Penalties being handed out. We are up to 7 now, as I just saw Hayden Gullis in the background going through Puon with a mighty slide, managed to save it and hold on to 10th place. Although Hayden in that ART, another car that's just been tumbling through the field, it has to be said, outside of the points paying position now, which would be a big shame for a driver that's been talking up his championship chances in recent weeks. Further forward, I think F1 Alex is going to come under pressure once again from Dragonflies, because that high tech is very close to the back of the Prema coming out of Stabilo.
And after that amazing move from Kryzik, he's continued to just pull away a little bit now, past ahead of these 2 drivers. It's just a bit of a 1v1 fight. Although Kryzik has got a penalty, as well as F1 Alex just picking up the off-track penalty there as well. So that looks like it's going to play a role in the overall results for this race. If Dragonflies can keep it clean and stay in touch with these 2, that could be a couple of free positions at the end.
Yeah, Dragonflies will be thinking about 2nd place here now, with Patterson being reeled in at a rapid rate of knots. That gap between 2nd and 3rd now just 1.5 seconds as they come through La Source. Now down to 1.3. The Van Alstel getting reeled in very, very quickly. It's going to be under pressure from 3. Very, very quick drivers. Bit of a gap back to Ches in 6th place. That gap, coincidentally, is 6 seconds with Infratic and F1 Scott, who's now got himself up into 8th place because we've got a bit of a kerfuffle going through turn 1 of La Source. There's Adam Sanderson, who's come off worse, dropping down into 11th place now. Oh, Ches with a penalty, though. Won't make too much of a difference to their finishing position, it has to be said. But he's going to be under pressure from Infratic. B-Roy's retired, but that is in the pit. Got to return to Ches, though, because he's going to be overtaken by Infratic. You would imagine Fabio going all the way over to the right-hand side. Doesn't want to take any risks there with Ches coming down into the Lake Com chicane. They're going to continue to battle it out side by side. We saw some brilliant racing from the 3 in front of them. I think we're going to see that continuous Ches holds it around the outside. For the moment, is going to stay in 6th, but Fabio is going to keep that front wing alongside down the hill. And I think with the line that he's got in that Van Alstel car, he's just about going to take the understeering wide, almost contact once again between the Trident and the Van Alstel. And Ches, brilliant defence, Ministry of Defence, holds on to 6th place.
And what amazing driving there. We often see in the Formula 1 drivers forcing each other off the road, but I think those drivers need to take a look at this Formula 2 Creator Series, because that was just a great example of some cracking racing, leaving enough room for each other and able to get through side by side for multiple corners there. The whole sector, they were battling it out, and it's still not done. I think we're going to see another attempt here from Infratic anytime soon.
Yeah, and Patterson started to tumble as well, dropped out of the podium places. Crixus and F1 Alex have come through, and Dragonfly's very much going to be next on the hit list to relegate that Van Alstel down further. But if Patterson can hold on to 5th place, that will be a very commendable effort. Fabio picks up another penalty. In fact, I'm not really particularly pleased about that because I believe that might be 6 seconds of penalties for that Van Alstel car. Will probably end his chances of finishing inside the top 8 and picking up a couple of points. Makes Chez's life a little bit easier, and he can breathe a sigh of relief because that pressure will be lifted a little bit as Dark Viper continues to pump in the purple laps out in front. 6.5 seconds the gap now as we start the penultimate lap of the race. Well, fastest lap taken now by Crixus as Hayden Gullis picks up a 3-second penalty, but down in, where is Hayden? Down in 10th place. Not going to make too much difference there.
Yeah, penalties going to make a difference to a lot of these drivers though. We're seeing most of the leaderboard there with the off-track penalties, the tough wet conditions proving too much. And a lot of them with those 3 seconds. So Patterson, even though he lost those spots, is still within the 3 seconds at the moment. With only 2 laps to go, will be trying to hang on now for as long as they can to see if they can finish this race and get those spots back.
Pondon, by the way, down into Las Orsas. Zach Garcia is disconnected, but Pondon in the Roden Carlin car. Bit of a slide coming out of turn 1, dropping a couple of places down into 15th now, and picks up a penalty to boot. Not ideal there. Fabio's going to continue the assault on Chez, though. We're going to have deja vu from the previous lap, although this time it's the outside line for Infratic. Cuts the corner slightly, but does get up into 6th place. Chez will have to settle for losing that, and now his fight is going to be with the 2 Dams cars behind, who've got the same number of track limits penalties as the Trident car. Chez still very much in the ballpark to finish 6th here, but can't lose too much time battling the 2 Downs. First up will be F2 Scott.
Here we go then. We're 8 laps through this race, but there is still plenty of close racing on track as drivers continue to try and push forward, and some others struggling later into this race. As again, a little bit of a slide, got too much on the curve there. Is there going to be a touch between them as well? Mid-corner, could have unsettled the car, but they all managed to get through. I think they backed off enough, realizing what was happening. That could have been F2 Scott has actually gained that position as a result of Chesnoid running a little bit wide and slowing down.
Yeah, Ches tumbling, starting to really struggle now as we're on the penultimate lap. The wet tyres maybe starting to go off. As you can see, the track conditions have improved significantly. The rain has pretty much dissipated, now only spitting, but he is currently running in 8th. That will become 7th with Infratic's penalty, but he is losing out the opportunity to pick up points. Further forward, Fabio Patterson did get overtaken by Dragonflies and fell down into 5th place, picks up a penalty. That is definitely an example of the commentator's curse for the Van Alstel driver, but is currently 8.3 seconds ahead of his teammate, so shouldn't be under too much pressure. Dragonflies has missed a trick here potentially, because that gap to the cars in front is now 3 seconds or just under 3 seconds between himself and 2nd place Crixus. So that chance of getting 2nd has been really thrown out of the water because he spent too much time caught up behind the Van Alstel of Patterson.
But now he's through, and he's got 1 lap to just do a time trial, to do a qualifying lap here to try and close that gap up if they can. It's just on the edge of that 3-second margin, so that if they could carry the speed through this final lap, pushing there up through Eau Rouge, through Radion, trying to get the speed onto the straight, although losing a little bit of time in the end. If we look forward, F1 Alex is on the back and probably getting a little bit of a slipstream here behind Kryzix as well, so that's probably helping try and keep that gap open to 3 seconds. But as we come to know in the Creator Series, it is going to come down to the final lap and who is going to have the speed that lasts throughout the race.
Ches is under pressure once again here, could be dropping down out of the points paying positions, which would be huge considering it was 6th just a couple of laps ago. Under pressure from Luke Howick after Infratic and F2 Scott got through. I think we've got a mistake from Patterson though. Yes, the Van Alstel is in the grass going through the hairpin of Brugels, and that is going to be disappointing. Doesn't make any difference to their finishing position at the moment, but that will be a bit of a brown pants moment for the driver that is currently occupying 5th place, and will probably just open his eyes a little bit on this final lap of the race. Don't want to throw away this very decent handful of points. Ches still under pressure, really struggling here. This is a battle to potentially stay in the points paying positions with Hayden Gullis only a second behind, but Ches is a little bit wide going through Pillon. Look at the Trident skating, trying to keep as much grip as possible and hold on to 8th place on the road, because Luke Howick in the Dams much more confident at this stage. Going to try and swing it around on the outside of the Fanier chicane. Runs out of road there though, doesn't want to take a trip through the grass. He'll have to settle for staying behind for now as he slides on the exit again. This time it's the Dams of Luke Howick, with Hayden Gullis just sniffing a potential opportunity behind.
Putting up a big defense. Chesnoid knows it's the final lap. Just needs to try and hang on for that final points paying position, as you said. But Hayden is showing, I thought we saw the pop-up saying he had a penalty earlier in the race, showing as not having any penalties at the moment, and that could play into Hayden's hand. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, it is Dark Viper, who is so far ahead of everyone else that we didn't really look at him too much. He has won the sprint race. Congratulations, Dark Viper. Krizix does come across the line in second place after having a little bit of a slower start coming through the field in the second half of that race. F1 Alex into third, Dragonflies. Patterson will hold on to fifth, and then as the penalties play out, F2 Scott, in Frantic. Hayden Gillis.
Look at
does
that over
claim
the
it.
line though. Yeah, that penalty that we thought came up for Hayden Gillis. We both saw it, 3-second penalty. Obviously not applying, and he comes home to pick up a point. Ches will be cursing what happened in the final couple of laps there. Misses out by just over a quarter of a second there. But did you see the drag race up to the line as well with the two Van Amersfoort cars? I didn't realise Patterson managed to lose 3.5 seconds in the second half of the lap, when Fabio was chomping at the bit to potentially get fifth place over the line. Wasn't able to do it in the end and came up short, got bumped down by F2 Scott as well. But there was a very exciting sprint race around Spa, dried up towards the end. Certain drivers really struggling as the track certainly dried up, the rain subsided, and we started to see the grip come back to them. And in the end, it was a very dominant performance from Dark Viper. Came through the field beautifully, took the lead about halfway through the race, and yeah, didn't look back from there.
Yeah, absolutely cracking. A bit of weather to throw it into the mix really turns up the race. And like you say, the track evolution towards the end was then, it was changing the whole time, and the field was changing the whole time as well as a result. Lovely race there from Dark Viper. As I mentioned, we didn't see much of him because once he got to the lead, he just pulled away and kept it clean that whole race and managed to pick up the win. So great job there. And then Krizix, the other name that's been around fighting in that top three the last few weeks, again gets their way up into second place.
F1 Alex, by the way, picking up the fastest lap, so an extra point for the Prema there. Dragonflies, Patterson, F2 Scott Infratic, and Hayden Gullis completing your top 8 there. Ches and Luke Howard both will be disappointed, as would Adam Sands, who was very much in the fray to pick up a couple of points, at least at one stage, picked up a late penalty, had some contact as well going into La Source, and will be bitterly disappointed with 11th. Hoodie Pete dropped back from a promising start. Aseno, Hayden Gullis is on my screen twice. I believe that is Bamford in 14th though. Then Pondon Zakarsi and B-Roy, who retired. Very exciting stuff, and it surely makes for a good one-shot qualifying session coming up. I think we can also be very excited for that feature race.
Absolutely, the feature race is always a different dynamic that adds a bit of fun as well, where you have those two different tyres you need to do. We get the race strategy playing into it. Quite often we do see that have a large effect at the end of the race. And the risk of safety car as well. We saw B-Roy in the fence in that one. There's generally quite a lot of runoff at Spa, so maybe the risk isn't as high as some other places, but it can happen, and then they can throw a spanner as well to that strategy that we talk about in the feature.
100%, yeah, the strategy's going to be key. We've seen a lot of people having differing opinions on what the optimal way to run the race is, and I think we will continue to have that debate until the end of time.
Absolutely, and it's because it depends on what your opponents are doing, right? So you have to not only have the optimal strategy in mind, you need to be able to react then during the race, which is always tricky to do. We see sometimes some of the creators end up relying on their chat a little bit for the strategy. They'll be feeding them information about what they think they might need to adapt to and change as they go. But we are going to get into... Oh, no, sorry, I've been tricked again. We're not...
Been hoodwinked.
Yeah, we're getting into the to the comedy restart.
So what we can do is we watch a load of AI drive into each other there. Interestingly enough, the two Tridents coming a cropper into turn one of the AI of Ches and the AI of Adam Sands. So we've got a wild car off in the background. I think that might have been Infratic potentially throwing it into the wall, coming out of La Source there. So
and they've actually managed to make it through a few corners, so it almost looked like a race this time, whereas the last time we got tricked, they all went off.
We've had a pile-up going into Eau Rouge. Nobody was watching it on the stream, but it was carnage going up the hill, and that would certainly not have been a very fun thing for the drivers involved. We're going to get the lobby reset, then we're going to get into our one-shot qualifying session in a few moments' time. What we are going to do is jump on board with one drive when we get into that one-shot qualifying session. Should we have a little bit of a discussion about who we want to ride on board with? Anyone that takes your fancy after what we've seen in the sprint race?
Yes, well, the running, almost joke, but the running comment has always been jumping on with Lolanova, hasn't it? And expecting him to be at the pointy end of qualifying and often at the front. I think he ended up, though, second last week, just confirmed that, because we had Krizix actually on pole. So he's definitely a driver to be watching out for. Let me see if I can look at my results. Krizix, Dragonfly's another one who's been up there recently as well, and of course we talk about Dark Viper. He hasn't quite had the qualifying results to be in the top few, but in the race generally has that pace to find himself in the podium. So it'll be interesting to see if he can maybe get an extra couple of spots in qualifying. That'll help him in the race as well.
Spectate Luke Howitt is an interesting one. I think, showed some really good pace in that dance car. I was unfortunate not to pick up some points with Howitt, because he jumps in the chat as we're doing that. I think that's one that we should talk about. But I just want to go back to Dark Viper quickly, because I think he'll be a bit disappointed with 4th place. Was very much the favourite to get 2nd. Obviously, not Dark Viper, Dragonflies. I don't know why I'm talking about Dark Viper. He was the runaway leader. Dragonflies was in the ballpark to get 2nd place. Was very much in that fight. Got caught up behind Patterson, and on that final lap dropped another 2 seconds to the duo in front. Do you think that's going to be a bit concerning for the high-tech driver there?
Yeah, I think it is disappointing, definitely, and that's where the mental aspect of sport comes in, right? Where you have to be able to bounce back, because perhaps it was just the case that it was in that wet weather. It was the maybe drying up a little bit. We talked about whether the tyres would be going off towards the end of the race, so maybe one of those factors playing a role there, and you have to be able to now bounce back and come into this next race and realize that you have the pace, you have the potential. You just need to now be able to execute it and focus forward. And once we get through the 2 races, then you can go back and analyze and unpack what went wrong and what you could have done better. But when you've got another race coming up immediately afterwards, you kind of need to put it out of your mind a little bit.
100%, yeah. A couple of people that will be disappointed. We spoke about Ches. It's actually the 3rd sprint race in a row he's failed to score in, whereas he only failed to score in 1 of the first 5 that he took part in. So a little bit of a dip in form for Ches in the sprint events. Anyone else that would be disappointed? F1 Scott did pretty well, actually, to battle back from what was a fairly challenging start for the Dams driver, or F2 Scott. I don't know what we're going to call him. Are we going with F2 Scott since he's rejoined F2?
Yeah, I think his name pops up now. He's changed it in game. He's showing up as F2 Scott. He's embracing the change.
We'll try and go with that. Yeah, F2 Scott. It might slip off the tongue, F1 Scott, since we've done it for the last 6 months or so with Scott, but shows some decent pace when he got into clean air. Managed to battle through the people just inside the top 10 and pick up some very handy points for himself. Obviously not in a title charge, because he's been battling it out pretty competitively, I have to say, in F1 for the first 6 or 7 weeks. But returning with a bang, I think he'll be another driver that we should keep a close eye out for, battling towards the probably the top 5, I would say, with F1 Scott. F2 Scott, it's happened already.
Oh, that's all right. I think someone might need to give a tap on the shoulder to some of these drivers. We've still got them out there doing laps in this race that's not a race. So hopefully they can get the word to them that we need to get going and get into qualifying soon, so we can reset the lobby and get away. But some of these drivers may be wanting to use it as practice to get ready for the race, because it looks like it could be dry in the feature race as well.
That'll be an interesting one. I think we are just about getting ready to set up once again, so maybe 5 minutes at a maximum. We have another chat about the championship. I want to talk a little bit about F1 Alex, who has actually only picked up 3 podiums in the feature race. Now, for the driver that was 2nd in the standings last season on F1 23, behind the dominant force of Mr. Dale, 3 podiums in the feature races. Do you think he'll be disappointed with that return, especially considering he picked up 2 non-point scoring finishes last week in Hungary?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're outside the points, there's usually going to be a bit of a story there of what happened, and it's usually a disappointing story, right? Something might have gone wrong, or you just didn't have the pace you expected. So I think anytime that happens, you're a little bit disappointed. But the beauty is that you can come back. It's a long season. We're actually only on round 8 of 13, if I've got that right. So there's still plenty of time to, have some good results and get up the pointy end, or just have some fun racing. I mean, this mid-pack, I'm sure even in the mid-pack, there's plenty of fun to be had, because we see that seems to be where the closest action is. And, part of it, you want the results, but also when you see this side-by-side action we saw in that sprint, even if you're in 6th, if you've done that, you're walking away with a smile.
Yeah, 100%. We saw some brilliant racing. That trio that fought really hard with Crix's F1 Annex and Dragonflies, batting incredibly hard down the Kemmel Straight into the Les Combes chicane. It was beautiful, beautiful to watch. We had a few bumps and scrapes along the way, but I think that's the nature of F2. Sometimes La Source was a bit of a sticky point for a couple of drivers, losing it on the curves. Obviously, we don't have the runoff there coming out of La Source Terminal. We've got the gravel coming in for the first time this year. Obviously, that was introduced, I think, back in 2022, if I'm correct on that.
Say it with confidence and I'll believe you. Yep.
I could be absolutely way off on that. It's not necessarily the thing that is the most most memorable putting the gravel trap in on the exit of La Source. But I think that definitely makes for slightly more interesting racing. Obviously, the sausage curves are a big no-go. You want to stay away from them because you're going to be spat into the Armco trailing down the left-hand side of that corner. Is there anybody else we want to have a talk about? Hayden Gallagher's potentially currently sat 7th in the championship. Didn't appear last week and hasn't actually finished on the podium.
Yeah, Hayden's someone I think we've seen sort of sporadic results from Hayden, where sometimes they're right in the mix doing really well, and then like today, just kind of sitting in that mid-pack, not really having the impact maybe they would have wanted coming forward and coming through.
100%, yeah, and Hayden, considering that he was runner-up in the inaugural F2 season, it's a bit of a bump back down to earth, although he has missed 3 events this season. But, I think the main problem that Hayden had was he didn't start the season particularly strongly. P11 in Monaco Sprint, then picking up 5 points in the feature race, P14 in the sprint the next week, and then had a decent haul of 15 points coming up in the feature race, then missed a couple of races. It's been a bit stop-start for Hayden. I think that's why he struggled a little bit, struggled to get that rhythm going, because when he's on form, he is definitely one of the drivers that we need to keep an eye out for. He's going to be one of the most competitive on the field. Yeah,
that's exactly right. When he's on form, he's right up there and he's fighting with it. And I think that's sort of some of the excitement of this series as well, right? Most of the drivers here in the F2, on their day, they're going to be fighting right at the top. And so we see a real variation of results, especially now with Lola Nova out of the question. He was picking up all those feature race wins, but now it's a lot more open.
100%, yes. For people that are confused, this has been the way that F1 Create Series has run. We've got F2 this evening, and then we have F1, the big show, coming up tomorrow at 6 o'clock sharp. Be ready for that. Another little banger on our hands. We've had some very exciting races in the main F1 season. I think one-shot qualifying is just a couple of moments away. I think the lobby is up and running. Who's your pick, though, to ride on board? We have a couple of suggestions from the chat. We've had Luke Howick in there. We've had Arseno. We've had a couple of drivers thrown around in the comms box as well. What are we thinking? Let's get a firm yes down on who we're going to spectate.
Oh, it's definitely a tough decision, isn't it? Like, let me take a look at this list. So we've got Krizix and Dark Viper are the two that we're often seeing at the top. I'd expect them to be quick again here today. But then who's going to be the outside chance? Maybe we give it to Hayden and see if he... Well, it also depends on the weather, doesn't it? If we're going to have dry in the one shot, which it looks like it should be, then we might see some different results as well, because the drivers, maybe some of them weren't as prepared for the wet weather conditions that we just saw in that race, and they'll be able to come on stronger here in the qualifying and then in the feature race as well. B-Roy was looking strong at the start of that race. It'll be interesting to see if he can back that up and maybe have a bit more consistency in the last throughout the race as well.
Similar to Hoodie Pete, just got caught up in a bit of a scrap early on. Hoodie Pete has not had the most competitive season, has to be said, currently down in 18th in the standings with only 14 points, I think that was there as I scroll across. No, 18 points. I've done a disservice there, taking 4 points away from him. But yeah, Hoodie Pete will be another driver, along with B-Roy, who will be trying to really turn around their fortunes. I mean, B-Roy is definitely not had the season he would have liked. Only scored points in one of the first 4 events that he took part in before getting a couple of points last week in Hungary, picking up 7 points across the 2 races there. So hopefully trying to carry that form on, although the sprint race we saw wasn't necessarily a very good omen for that.
No, yeah. And sorry, I'm just making sure we've got... Did you manage to get into the lobby here as well?
I am not currently in. Are you in as the...
Yes, so let me send you an invite.
Okay, I am...
A little peek behind the curtains of of how we make it all work. Here we go.
There we go, we jumped in.
So we've just about got all the drivers in here ready to go, I think, so we should not be too far away getting back into racing. And, you know, these longer delays, sometimes they can play with your mind a little bit, right? I often talk about the mental side of sports. And when you're sitting there, everyone's going to be sitting there in their seat, sort of amped up, ready to go after that first race, ready to dive into qualifying. And now you just have to sit and wait patiently. And it can start playing with your mind. And some drivers will have their routines that they go through. I'm sure a lot of them will be having banter with their respective stream chats. But sometimes you have that little routine that you go through. You maybe do a little bit of a stretch, get yourself in the zone, listen to some music, I imagine there's a bit of that going on at the moment.
Yeah, just builds up that extra little bit of tension and spice that we love to see in the Creator Series. So we are getting ready to go for one-shot qualifying. Bit of an extended delay there. Got a lot of support for Luke Howick in the chat though. Maybe we're going to have to diverge from what we were initially saying and jump on board with the driver in the second downs.
We'll see if we can't bring that up.
Loading in though around this marvellous circuit. I would go as far as to say, most legendary circuit of all time. It's up there with the likes of Monaco, obviously Silverstone. There's a big contest and a big debate I think we can all have about what is the best circuit of the over the course of the history of Formula One. A lot of people say Monaco, even though it's a little bit stinky these days. Shh, don't tell anyone. That Spa though is always very impressive. Even though Max Verstappen in recent years seems to win by about 8 days, he'll be at the next race by the time the driver in second crosses the line. But we digress from that and back to the real sport, which is F2, and we're getting ready to go for one-shot qualifying. Do you want to take us through with the flying lap that you've decided to take us around?
Yeah, we'll get a look at the full track as well here. Get a look at all the corners as we go through qualifying. One-shot qualifying, of course, they're all going to be out on track at the same time, but we'll not be seeing each other, so we'll just see one car at a time. So we're going to get going in 10 seconds time, and there's a lot of pressure on this. Only one attempt. You can't afford to make any mistakes, so it's a bit of a decision. How hard do you push? Do you go full commitment and take the risks, or do you try and take it a little bit calmer as we get down into turn number 1? See if I can pick out the right driver that we wanted to get onto. Here is Luke in the Red Bull, down through turn number 1. A little bit of a lock-up. We see that quite often in these F2 cars. And now we get to see this famous section of track. Are we full speed in the F2?
100% flat out. You've got to put your cojones on the line. Bamper's already retired. Hopefully that's not the MP Motorsport driver dropping it up the hill of Eau Rouge and Radia. We've got a couple of subs on the line as well if we do see Luke Howick get pole. But going through the first sector split, only 8th at the moment for the Downs driver. And with it all to do in the second half of the lap, Dark Viper and F1X currently dueling it out for first and second at this stage.
As we can see a little bit of a different in the setups as well. We've had that long straight now through the tight and twisty sections. Who's got the extra downforce to carry the speed through here again? That smoke coming off the tyres. Of course, soft tyres on for the sprint qualifying. They want to carry as much grip as they can. And we do, of course, have this dry track. So the quick adjustment between wet and dry. Now fling it in here as fast as you can on the entry. Use the track on the exit. A little bit of curb there and carry the speed through. Try and get the momentum. Luke Howick in 4th position at the moment. It's a long lap, so there's a lot of work to do in this qualifying session. And again, through the tight and twisty, Luke is looking good. Gets it past Adam Sanderson through that sector. Only 2 more drivers going faster than himself. And Purple, in fact, through sector 2.
Couple of people in the chat going to be sweating here. I don't think they're expecting this as Luke Howick with the fastest middle sector jumps up into second place, and all of a sudden we're on red alert here, everybody, because Dark Viper is the only driver ahead. F1X just sneaks in front though. I think it's pretty close between the top 3, Adam Sanson and Dragonflies, rounding out our top 5. You can see people going wild in the chat as we wait to see how Luke Howick can negotiate the bus stop chicane, avoid the sausage curves. Bit of a correction on the exit. He's back up into second place. How close is it over the line? Not as close as we thought for the Dams car there of Luke Howick, ending up half a second off the back of Dark Viper. I think a few people's hearts were in their mouths for the moment. They thought they were going to be a couple of quid down, or whatever currency these guys are using. But second place for Luke Howick. I think you've managed to do a very good job for your driver there, because he's got himself on the front row.
Yeah, absolutely. What a pick from the chat there to pick out Luke. That was a great lap to come through into second place. Dark Viper, though, what a storming one. 156.1, half a second clear of the rest of the field. But the rest of the field was so close. That second place fight, it was changing hands through that final bus stop chicane, back and forth, and Luke in the end just picks it up by a couple of hundredths of a second. Just nothing between the second to 4th, really. Adam Sanderson right in the fight as well.
Yeah, 400 separating Luke Howick and Adam Sanson. Only 10 lap times, completed a couple of DNFs around the circuit and 4 disqualifications, most notably probably F2 Scott, you would imagine, was going to be right up there in that second Dams. We could have had a Dams 2-3 potentially, or definitely inside the top 5. So an interesting one there. People struggling to keep it within the track limits, which is not necessarily something that we would have thought about going into this race, but Dark Viper, though, an ominous performance out in front, comfortably clear of the rest of the field. We know the field spread is going to be slightly wider because it is one of the most technical and longest circuits on the calendar, but that was hugely impressive.
It absolutely was. And are we going to potentially see a clean sweep here from Dark Viper? He'll be looking to get a clean start on the front, see if they can pull away like they did in the sprint race. But there's plenty of drivers looking to stop that from happening, and there's a bit of strategy to get right as well. It's not just about car pace. So we're about to get into the feature, and I'm really excited to see how this one's going to unfold.
Most certainly. We wait for the strategies to be applied. The fuel loads, I think, that can be adjusted in F2, although it's been a little bit of time since I've done the F2 stream, of course. But we are getting ready to go. We can see 2 lights appearing in front of our drivers. It is Dark Viper and Luke Howick on the front row, 5 lights ahead of our drivers for the feature race here in F2 Spa. It is lights out, and away we go with the Invicta leading the dams down to turn number 1. And there's a bit of a squirm off the line for Dark Viper. A bit of contact behind as well. And F1 Alex has gone bowling into La Source there. Carnages, there's a couple of cars caught up as well. Into the gravel, we've got 5 drivers caught up in a car park. And it's the drivers from 2nd down into 5th on the grid that have all come a cropper into turn number 1. Dragonflies, Adam Sanson, Luke Howick and F1 Alex definitely in the bin there as they come out of La Source all the way down in 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th. Dark Viper has had an absolute free pass coming out of turn number 1. He's got a 2.5 lead ahead of him. Fast, he's coming under pressure from Chesnoid gaming down the straight and trying to enact revenge from what we saw in the sprint. Ches powers past the Van Alsfort car down the Kebble straight and into the Lake Combe chicane. Deploys the smoke screen of tyre lockup as well, but goes a little bit deep, and in fact it's going to take his opportunity to take 2nd place back on the soft compound tyres and enacts the revenge that was served going down the straight. And now Hayden Gullis all over the back of the Trident.
Beautiful little crossback there from Infratic. Got overtaken, but then didn't let that get to them. They straight back through. What a great drive. But just a big crash off the start. That was a disaster from all those drivers. We talked about having a great qualifying session. They all got tangled up 4 wide through turn 1. And now they've got a real big recovery drive to try and do in this race. 13 laps here in the feature race, so it is a little bit longer. There's a little bit more time. And they're just off the back of the field, and they're not too far back, so hopefully not too much damage. We could see some overtakes later in the race. Yeah,
they're all busy getting their picnic baskets outside in the gravel coming out of turn number 1. It was F1X who I think made contact with Adam Sanson, and they bumped tyres, and then they just put off a little bit. Went way too late on the brake, slammed into the side of Luke Howick, and all of them then caught up on the exit. I think Dragonflies was a bit of an instant bystander. Another one of the quick drivers is also is Crix is coming down through turn number 15, I think it is, and that's another one of the drivers who would have been contending for the lead, dropping down into last place. I mean, what a crazy start to the Spa race we have seen here, but Dark Viper serenely confirming first place out in front. 2.0 seconds as we go through the bus stop. Bit of a slide on the exit. Probably another bit of commentary curse there as Ches sat right on the back of Infratic, but has to be looking in his mirrors very firmly so, because Hayden Gullis all over the back of him trying to right the wrongs from the sprint race coming up with just a singular point there. Hoodie Pete completing our top 5 ahead of Patterson. Pond and F2 Scots in there made up some good places. F2 Scots now up into 7th place. He centred up the inside of the road in Carlin and Pond, and that is a beautiful move on the soft compound tyres to get up into 7th place now. Aseno and Dragonflies completing our top 10. Zach Hussey just been bumped out of it.
And this has now become a bit of an opportunity for some of those drivers who were on the bubble of the front group, as we've had drivers like Chrysics, Luke Howick, Adam Sanderson having a disaster of a start. Now we've got Infratic, Chesnoid Gaming, Hayden Gillis as well taking the opportunity.
No!
Ooh.
Oh, we've got cars off all over the place. Aseno's off in the background in the 2nd Invicta car. We had Chesnoid and Hayden almost going spinning simultaneously. Ches made contact with Infratic as he tried to get 2nd place back, and then Hayden almost spinning in sympathy following them round. But it is Hayden in the ART who's got ahead of Ches in that kerfuffle. And another slide for the Triumph. Ches really struggling with the grip at the moment. It's going to come under pressure from another Van Alsfort. It's deja vu from the previous lap, although this time it's Patterson who's trying to swing it around the outside of Pouon. This will be brave, but it's absolutely beautiful as well when he does run off the circuit, and will pick up a corner cutting infringement for that, potentially an illegal overtake also. Hoodie Pete trying to nestle his way through the Prema car as well. Ches getting swallowed up by the pack here, and F2 Scots is going to be licking his lips at the sights that he's seeing in front of him. Ponda trying to recover as he battles away with Dragonflies just behind this little group of cars, and then it's B-Roy who managed to get past Zach Hussey down the straight and into the Lake Combe chicane. And look at them still clustered up. Ches putting pressure on Hoodie Pete, and the Trident losing another place.
Chesnoid really on the defensive at this stage of the race, trying to hold on to these positions, but all these drivers wanting to get through, so aggressive. Big fight in the opening laps, knowing that it's a good opportunity to get past, because there's gaps opening up ahead here of this battle pack. So seems to be once the drivers get through, they're able to open up a little bit of a gap, and another move going underway into the bus stop. Deep braking, there might have been contact there as well. They squeeze their way through and get out the exit.
What are we doing, fellas? We're all over the road. Mistakes are plenty from all of the drivers in this battle. F2 Scott's just trying to keep his nose clean as Adam Sanson, can't get the words out, Adam Sanson down in 13th, sets the fastest lap of the race. Patterson's off the road going through that source and relinquishes a couple of places back. Hoodie Pete has now come out on top of all of this into 4th place, but F2 Scott I think is going to be flying past in just a matter of moments. Jez now in 6th, still ahead of Patterson. Then it's Pond and Dragonflies and B-Roy. They're almost side by side going up the hill of Eau Rouge and Radion. We could be 3 wide behind. F2 Scott is passing Hoodie Pete. Jez trying to get back involved as well, recovering the places that were lost on the previous lap. Look at these battles going on. Patterson's not satisfied with losing those places. Jesnoy's not satisfied with 5th place as he's ending on the inside. More contact as Jez and F2 Scott run off the road. Carnage further back as well. I think that was Zach RC off into the pickets on the left-hand side as well. What is going on, guys? We're fighting incredibly hard for these positions inside the top 10. Is that a trident of Adam Sanson sending it up the inside into Brigels? And it doesn't work out because he makes contact with the Red Bull livery car. I think that was probably Pondon in the road in car. And Adam Sanson once again is thrown down to the back of this bag. We've got a Prema reversing through No Name. It's Hoodie Pete who's got a lot of damage and is now to the back of the pack also.
Oh, it all comes unstuck. We saw how long it was so aggressive for such a long time there, and eventually it all just becomes too much and there's contact between them. Hoodie Pete loses out again after looking like he was having a good run, a good bit of momentum on that last lap, and the contact makes it all come undone.
We haven't spoken a lot about the tyre strategies, and while we've got a little bit of room for some air time, no we don't, because Patterson with a slide coming through Stabilo, and we'll lose another few places as well. The two high-tech, although the high-tech and the Campos, of Dragonflies and B-Roy come through. Pondon is trying to muscle his way in there as well and take a free invitation from the Van Elsel, who is off the road as well. But Patterson only losing 2 places there. Dragonflies, who was caught up in that first lap incident, managed to recover, somehow get back up into 6th place here on the lap 4 as we come up towards the bus stop chicane. Dark Viper with the fastest lap. B-Roy's still going to try and battle this around the outside into the bus stop. Who's going to run off the road this time? It's like a raffle to just try and decide who falls off the racetrack, and somehow they all keep it between the white lines.
Crikey, Nick, it's the first race I was talking about how great it was seeing the side-by-side action, all nice and clean, driving between them. This one, the gloves are off and they are just fighting it out. We've already seen a few incidents, but they are definitely willing to send it here now. Perhaps the difference being that we're in the dry, they're a bit more confident to go late on the brakes and try and make these moves. But it's definitely tough out there to try and hang on to positions.
Bit of a gap has formed further back. I think it's Arseno. Patterson's under pressure from Adam Sanson, who's certainly been in the wars in this race. B-Roy is also trying to make a move past Dragonflies. He's on the grass on the right-hand side of the circuit. And now there's contact as well. Smoke screen deployed, and there's contact further back as well. Adam Sanson caught out. It's reminiscent of 2009 when we had Nelson Piquet Jr., Jenson Button in the pickets on the gravel on the right-hand side. Loads of drivers thrown off the road as Bamford completes a beautiful move around the outside of Hoodie Pete in all of this, but has picked up damage and will relinquish that once again. B-Roy coming a cropper. Dragonflies drop it back down into 11th. What are we doing, fellas? We can't keep it away from each other. It's almost like they're magnetised towards each other in this race.
Oh, this has just been absolute madness, hasn't it? They're just continuing to just go crazy sense. Out on the grass, that doesn't stop them. They're still trying to find their way up the inside. And it's just so hectic. You can't get away with that. And we're seeing so many drivers now will be carrying that damage. And look, a missing end plate here on Pondon, who's just quietly found themselves up into 6th position, picking up positions as everyone in front just ends up off the road.
Yeah, if we look at the positions gained, Dark Viper is currently holding first. Hayden Gullis has made up 6. Infratic's made up 4. Ches has made up 5, although I think he's about to lose one because F2 Scott is all over the back of the trident coming through Blanchemont. I think he's going to make a move up the inside or the outside into the bus stop chicane at the end of this lap. Yes, F2 Scott is going to send it up the inside. I think Ches is going to release that position and doesn't fight it too hard. That is up into 4th for F2 Scott, who's made up 12 places in this lap. Managed to keep his nose clean, get rid of all the carnage around it, but Ches not going to sit this one down. He's going to come around the outside and try and nab 4th place back as they cut the beam to start lap number 5, this pair. Battling very nicely. Ches a little bit tentative on the brakes. F2 Scott sensing an opportunity, but contact once again. These two can't keep it clean. Neither can all the drivers behind us. We've got more scobbling into La Source. Zach RC is taking a trip off the road, potentially. No, just about. Keeps it inside the red and white curb there, but does lose out to F1 Alex and Luke Howard, who are both on a recovery driver. Zach RC trying to maybe sniff around the outside of the F1 Alex in the Prema. Can't quite manage it and will stay down in 9th place.
crikey. I wanted to try and get back to your point about
the grass again, by the way. F1 Alex, we're going to be 3 wide once more. Is this deja vu from the previous lap? No, there's just enough room between F1 Alex's car and the white line. I think that's our Senna in the event, descending it up the inside also. We could have contact once again into the Lake Com chicane. F1 Alex is about to get through clean as you like. We all follow in formation behind, apart from the two at the back, and apart from the Red Bull livery Dams car of Luke Howard. He's been bigged up in the chat, but he's made a mistake on the exit of the corner, rejoining potentially dangerously, passing almost into the side of the Dams car. Luke Howard, the comeback has got to start once again because he's been thrown down into 16.
Oh, disaster. I saw there was a couple of drivers trying to back out of those moves, trying to keep it safe, but when it's so close like this, it's almost more dangerous to try and slow down and get away from it. And again, we just see it come together.
By the way. It's raining. I don't know
gosh.
if people can see, but we've got drops of rain as we come through Pooh on Dragonfly, still trying to recover. He's back up to 8th place, passing the 2 Road and Carlin cars who have dropped back down. They were running 6th and 7th about 45 seconds ago. Now back down into 9th and 10th as they all came a cropper down the Kemmel Straight and into the Lake Com corner. More contact, and once again, and I think Dragonflies is just going to keep it on the circuit. Almost got a love tap off the road, but Pondon going to keep a nose up the inside. Contact once again. It's rear right tyre to front left tyre. Soft tyres versus medium tyres for the high-tech versus the Road and Carlin car. And there's carnage once more. Dragonflies is smashed into the wall by one of the Road and Carlin cars. I'm not sure which one it was. Significant damage to virtual safety car to boot as well. And suddenly, we've got a reset and we can all breathe. No, wouldn't be surprised if we see people jump into the pits for a set of the wet compound tyres. Ches is certainly into the box. We'll have to see what tyres the Trident put on.
Oh, a lot of these drivers coming into the pits now, actually, using the virtual safety car. So the front drivers missed out. They were already past the pit entry. Dark Viper's carried on. And the front 3 is it, and everyone else, it looks like, into the pits, using this opportunity perhaps to put on the wets, like you say, because we are seeing the spits of rain in there. Look at that, wet tyres going on for F1 Alex at least. And this could play a big role. This could have a big impact here in how the strategy and how the race plays out.
F2 Scott in the baby blue Dams has put on the baby blue wet compound tyres as well and will rejoin into this race in an optimal position, sat just behind Chestnut Game. These guys that have stayed out on the slicks going to be under huge pressure unless it's a full course safety car, which is called, but I don't think that is going to occur.
Oh my goodness, I thought we were going to get a little bit of a break thanks to the virtual safety car, but even the virtual safety car is dramatic because we got all these pit stops coming in, we got the tyre strategy, the rain, as if this race needed anything more. It is going to be all go. I can't quite keep up with it all.
Neither can I. I've run out of water as well. Everybody's an absolute disaster. We're going to be going dry for the rest of this race, the 7 laps that are remaining. I think I'm probably going to need it because this is going to be absolute chaos as DRS is enabled. Look who's slow off the line. I think that may have been Bamford in the MP Motorsport car who was caught napping going through the Lake Com chicane and drops behind Luke Howard. They're skating around on the slick tyres, trying to find as much grip as possible. I want to watch the progress. First to the Trident of Ches, who is in 9th place at the moment. Bamford on the medium tyres, skating around the outside of Brugiel's, but I think he's going to lose that position. Ches up the inside, now turns to the outside for No Name Corner. Got to leave the car's width on the inside, which a lot of drivers haven't done in this race so far. Clean around the outside. DRS is disabled. That is the cue for everybody to jump into the pits to put these wet compound tyres on. I think Ches, F2 Scott, F1 Alex, all of these guys that put it on under the virtual safety car have got it absolutely right and are now probably the favourites for this race if the track gets wet very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's just how much rain is there going to be on this lap. It doesn't look like there's a huge advantage for these wet tyres yet, as we're seeing the comparison here with Bamford still on those mediums. But like you say, under the virtual safety car, it's essentially a quicker pit stop. So yeah, Dark Viper's going to come in, but he doesn't have the advantage of the virtual safety car. How much time is this going to cost the leaders who have to make their pit stop now?
Oh, contact. Further back is F2 Scott and Bamford, who have come a cropper coming out of Beaurevage, that's a different track, coming out of Stabilo corner, and into the wall was pile drive Bamford in the MP Motorsport car. F1 Scott still had his nose alongside, but it wasn't enough, and both of them ending up in the barriers. The safety car has absolutely saved the leaders as Dark Viper, as you correctly said, jumping into the pits to weather the storm onto the wet compound tyres. Emphatic Hayden, they're all going to get a free pit stop. Karma is absolutely turned on its head because these guys who pitched under the VSE are now going to be at a disadvantage.
Oh my goodness, would you believe it? Another twist into the tail, full safety car. So like you say, the advantage now to those drivers who are just making their pit stop. Let's see where they come out. Safety car's already on track. So is that already picked up Dark Viper, who's out of the pits?
Yes, it has.
The second pit stop's confused me there.
Yeah, Ches into 4th place after the 3 drivers that were comfortably clear of everybody else. So these 2 have stayed in the same position. Somehow, after all of the carnage we've seen, the crashes, the weather coming down, Ches and F2 Scott are still in the same place. And bearing in mind as well that F2 Scott has pretty penalty for speeding in the pits. What a disaster that is. I wonder if he's going to retire. No, I don't think so. Just going to have to live with that 10-second penalty hanging over his head. F1 axes up into 6th place, ahead of Arseno, Zach RC, B-Roy and Patterson complete our top 10. This has benefited the likes of Luke Howick and Pondon, who are skating around halfway around the lap on the medium and soft tyres respectively. Patterson has overtaken B-Roy. That's an interesting one, not sure what's going on there. They do return the position, very gentlemanly of both of them there. Who's still in the pits? Bamford after he got pitched into the wall.
Yes, I wanted to look at Bamford because he's put on soft tyres here. So I'm not sure if that was a mistake or he thinks it's going to clear up.
It's a little bit sketchy. I don't think that is the correct decision. I have to say, this might be a very long night. This might be entertaining to watch, actually. Sorry for Bamford, but you have made a bit of a strategic blunder there, I think is the technical term. He's going to lose a couple of places. This could hurt the guys behind, actually. Crix's, Adam Sanson and Hoodie Pete are going to have to pass the MP Motorsport car, you would imagine, because they're going to be crawling around on the wrong compound of tyre.
Yeah, this is tricky because even under the safety car, they still have to catch up to the safety car, so they can't go too slowly here. It's really going to be a test of, is there any grip sliding through the corner? I'm not sure there's going to be much, but I wonder if he thinks the rain's going to stop. It's still raining at the moment.
Well, if he thinks the rain's going to stop, he's in a class of 1 there, is struggling to go through the hairpin there. And yeah, I think Crix is going to be cursing the fact that the MP Motorsport car stayed out. I don't know if they're going to get the message that they can overtake because Bamford is going so slow on the wrong compound of tyre. If he can get it back to the pits, he's still going to be very much in the race. And with some of the battles that we've seen and some of the carnage that we've seen, he's once again going to be in the fight for probably a couple of points come the end of the 13-lap feature race that we've got. But it's all calm out in front. Dark Viper managed to weather the storm, managed to get ahead of everyone, avoid all of the chaos behind that ensued, not only on the opening lap, but the subsequent 6 laps that we've just seen. And he's now comfortably out in front, but he's had his advantage absolutely wide. And now has a very racy, I would imagine, Hayden Gullis all over the back of him. That could make a very interesting safety car restart. And Infratix in 3rd, and we know that he loves a battle as well.
Absolutely right. Now this battle is wide open. As you say, the advantage has been lost. Dark Viper had pulled away from the field and had a nice comfortable lead. And I wonder what we're going to see from Hayden Gillis though. He was quick in the dry, but in the sprint race earlier when it was wet, didn't look like he had that ultimate pace. So whether maybe he's learned some tricks or it was just the fact of the sprint race might have picked up damage, anything like that. What are we going to see from Hayden here in this one? And then in Infratic, Chesnoid, who's had a big race in this feature race, I would say. In 4th at the moment, and looking like they could pick up a podium. So anytime, you're on the edge, fringe of the podium, it's enough motivation to keep pushing forward. And a chance now perhaps to go through the whole field as well. Now that we can just catch our breath a little bit after an action-packed race. F2 Scott, another one looking strong, having to recover now up to 5th position.
Yeah, just behind them F1 Alex, who started 3rd, got caught up in the opening lap incident that was kind of ensued by his own doing there, making a couple of mistakes. He's managed to recover brilliantly up into 6th place. Arseno in the 2nd, Invicta car in 7th. Zach RC 8th ahead of B-Roy. Then the Van Alsort of Patterson holding 10th place. Luke Harrick sat just outside the top 10 ahead of Pondon. Dragonflies, who just like Ches, has very much been in the wars but has come off worse on most occasions, in 13th ahead of Crix's. Then it's Adam Sanson, Hoodie Pete, who's coming to the pits to try and get rid of some of his penalty. And Bamford, who crawled his way around the pit, around the lap on the soft compound tyres to get back for the wets. And I think he's probably going to need some armbands and an oar to get round after what we saw in the previous lap.
Confirmation that it was just a mistake then to go onto those soft tyres, and he's had to come back into the pits. Ultimately, only lost a few positions, so he'll be able to catch back up now into safety car and resume the racing. And what this has done as well, everyone coming into the pits, a lot of them, I believe, has fixed their front wings and taken the opportunity. So all those little bits of damage from the contact in the first half of the race should be now reset for the most part and ready to go racing for the last few laps when we get to them.
One more lap of safety car, you would imagine, which would give us a 4-lap sprint, as we're still seeing Patterson and B-Roy. And Patterson's now got a penalty. What's going on here? Patterson's overtaking everybody. He's up into 6th now, got a 10-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. I mean, this is... If I wasn't confused enough before the safety car came out, I'm even more confused now. Patterson flying around the outside of everyone, thinking we're back to green flag conditions for some reason. Maybe just playing around with B-Roy because we saw they were swapping places quite a few times under the safety car. But we'll probably jump into the pits to get this penalty erased by putting on a brand new set of wet tyres. No, it does stay out. So continue on there. Everybody, of course, course, on the wet compound tyres. If we try and look at the big movers for the race so far, obviously Dark Viper is the only driver that has stayed in the same position. Started first, is currently holding first place. Hayden Gillis has made up 6 places. Patterson's nearly driven into the back of B-Roy going into La Source. So we'll keep up on this little,
even under the safety car
that's going on. Even under the safety car, we can't keep it clean for some reason. Infratic's made up 4 places, managed to keep out of the wars for the most part. Ches certainly hasn't been in the thick of it for the majority of this feature race, but does hold 4th place after starting 9th. F2 Scott got disqualified in qualifying. Was probably the cleanest driver on track, barring Dark Viper and potentially Hayden Gullis, but then had that contact with Bamford, is still running in 5th, and I don't believe has any damage. Made up 11 places after starting 16th. F1 Axe has lost 3 from 3rd on the grid. Arsenio's picked up 5, Zach Rossi down, 7, B-Roy up 8, and Patterson up 4. Everybody behind was mainly caught up in the first lap collisions that we saw. Luke Howick down 9 after qualifying on the front row. Fondon down a couple, Dragonflies from 5th down to 13th, losing 8. Same number for critics there. Adam Sanderson has not had a good outing, in fairness. He is down in 15th, lost 11 places. Hoodie Pete's been in the wars. Also, we saw him going backwards coming out of No Name Corner. He holds 16th, and then Bamford has been trying his hardest to catch up to the back of the pack. He has lost 4 places.
And I'm not sure Bamford is actually going to be able to catch up here. Hopefully on this lap, we might see the safety car come in and Bamford still having to push. Although, on the flip side, this could give them a little bit of advantage of feeling for the track. They've been pushing on these outlap. Everyone else has been going slow, won't really have that wet weather feeling of how much grip is available to them. Bamford's going to be really clued in when this race restarts and probably feel quite comfortable in these conditions, ready to get racing if, and it's a big if at the moment, they can catch up to the pack.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. We'll have slightly worn tyres, though. That's the caveat, and probably balance it out. The tyre temperature that they've got will probably have significantly higher wear tyres, because the F2 wet tyres do wear a little bit more. That is the beautiful message in the top of screen that we wanted to see. Safety car is in this lap. Bamford's going to have a tall order to try and catch 25 seconds in not very long to get up to the back of the pack. I wonder if there's going to be any sort of convergence and if some teamwork is going to be installed to try and get Bamford in that empty motorsport car back onto the rear of the Snake. But we're getting ready to go again. Everybody that's in chat that's managed to stick with us through the hour and 10 minutes or so that we've had so far, leave your predictions down. Want to know what you think. It's going to be an absolute lottery to see who's going to win this race, but probably one of you is going to be right, because it could be all 17 of the drivers that we're seeing on track. Dark Viper back in the pack up, ready to get going once again. Start lap number 10 in what will become a 4-lap sprint to the flags here in Belgium.
And if the first half of the race is anything to go by, you do not want to be going for a coffee right now. You do not want to be taking a break. Save the cookies for later, because we're about to go racing, and we are going to see plenty of action in it as well. Dark Viper going to be leading Hayden Gillis. Where does he go for it? He goes for it in the middle of the bus stop there, and he gets a nice little jump. But it's such wet conditions. Look how heavy the rain is coming down now. It is treacherous. Dark Viper off into the lead. Everyone looking like they're getting through there reasonably cleanly, but further in the pack, there is going to be some close racing. Heading down into turn at number 1. They all calm it down. Plenty of spray being kicked up off these cars into turn number 1. Wide there for Asino. Going to lose out 1 position, but the front gaps are opening up. Dark Viper with a great restart.
Yeah, it looks very, very wet at the moment. Boats more suited to this weather than Formula 2 cars at this stage. F1 Alex under pressure and putting pressure on F2 Scott as well, who's struggling a little bit up through O'Rouge and Radion. Bit of a lag spike there. Zach Rossi is lucky, because on my screen at least it looked like he was about to have an airplane crash into the barriers on the right-hand side of O'Rouge and Radion corner. B-Roy's had a terrible restart, dropped a second and a half almost off the back of the pack. F1 Alex is going for it up the inside of F2 Scott. Very tentative look up the inside, trying not to make contact, as probably every driver has done so far in this feature race at the moment. But it's F2 Scott who holds 5th place for the time being. Luke Howick gets back up into the top 10 at the expense of B-Roy, who's dropped further back.
Looks like...
I do not have a safety car.
Oh, is it just me?
On my screen. Oh, we got contact. B-Roy's been punted going down the hill, and we've had a bit of a lag spike there. So, I'll hand it back to you.
Looks like everyone's still racing, so it might just be on my end that we've got the safety car pop up. Hasn't reset itself properly, but they are still all pushing out there, going for it. I don't see any crashes either, as it is Dark Viper out in the lead. He's got a good gap now, 2.5 seconds. So I think, again, in the wet, Hayden Gillis just struggling a little bit in these conditions and is now going to come under pressure from Infratic. A little bit of a gap then again to Chesno Gaming, and there is F2 Scott. And that battle we were just watching, F2 Scott versus F1 Alex. And this is where the pack really starts, still closing up in behind them. But so far, they've been a little bit more careful, tiptoeing around the track, not going for the big sends that we saw in the first half of the race.
Good restart for Dragonflies, currently squabbling over 10th and 11th with B-Roy, was 13th at the commensation. That's definitely the word. At the start, let's go with that, of the restart. But same can't be said for Luke Howick, who was 10th momentarily about 30 seconds ago, now down in 13th, and at the back of this gadget car squabbling just outside the top 10. Further forward, though, it is Dark Viper, who is serenely pulling away out in front. F1 Alex is putting pressure on F2 Scott as Patterson and Hoodie Pete both pick up penalties.
And penalties definitely could play a role again. So far, most of the drivers managing to keep it clean. We saw so many penalties in the sprint race, and now that it's wet again here, they're going to have to be careful to not go off the track too often. And through the first corner, nice and clean this time around, although I think Krizik might have had a problem half late. There's the battle here is further sort of outside the top 10. Oh, no, into the fence!
Anymore. Not clean anymore. Commentators cursing. Stewart B-Rose once again involved in the carnage that we're seeing. Drops down a couple of places. Contact with, I think it was Dragonflies on the exit of last source corner. It's the high tech that comes out on top, and it's the Campos driver that's throwing down a couple of places, although Krixis, who was off the road, I think was probably over the curb on the outside in that 3-wide moment we saw, gets past Patterson going down the Kemmel straight, but as a 10-second penalty, that's going to ruin the race of the PHM drivers. F2 Scott and F1 Alex continues to scrabble, going through the Lake Com chicane. It's Dams versus Kramer with Zach RC. Zach nipping at the heels of both of these two. F1 Alex is off the road there, going over the curb on the outside. The Rodin Carlin car of Zach RC potentially going to send it up the inside of the hairpin. Was there a bit of contact there? It looked like a bit of a squirm was had by Zach RC as F1 Alex going from attack to defence in the matter of a couple of seconds, and somehow we're still in the same order. Status resumed with Arseno sat just underneath the rear wing of that Rodin Carlin.
It is all go here for 5th position. Sort of calmed down out in front a little bit, although Infratix in behind. Hayden Gill is still closing that gap. But these guys, they're still all at it, trying to fight for those positions. And look at the spray behind. I think there's about 6 cars in that spray, but you can't see any of them. It's going to be so tough in behind this train. And that is why F1 and Alex wants to get through as soon as possible. F2 Scott doing a great job on his first drive as a main driver. So if you are just tuning in, F2 Scott down into Formula 2. He was in the Formula 1 Creator Series. And Lola Nopa, we're going to see Lola Nopa tomorrow in the F1 Series and for the rest of the season as well. So that's why we're seeing some different names. And F2 Scott has been doing a great job here on full-time debut.
Yeah, the rain is pouring, though, for Bamford, metaphorically and literally, because they've had a spin going through Stabilo and dropped 7 seconds off the back of the pack. Cricks with an audacious move around the outside of Blanchimont in the rain. That is beautifully executed. If they can make it stick down into the bus stop chicane, it's Arseno who is later on the brakes and is somehow going to hold on to this position. The switchback is going to try and be enacted by the PHM car, but just gets stuck underneath the rear wing of the Invicta as these guys start the penultimate lap of the race. Expertly defended by the Invicta, currently holding 8th position, and Cricks will have to have another go in a couple of corners' time. Will it be a send-up up into the source? No, it will not. Remain as we were for the time being, although Dragonflies, incredible run through turn number 1 and could be putting that PHM under some significant pressure.
Dragonflies and Krizik, 2 drivers that we're sort of expected to see up the pointy end. The race has not gone their way as F2 Scott picks up that time penalty. We talked about they're probably going to play a role. Adam Sanderson, another one to do it as well. And that could have a big impact because the safety car is closed in this field. It's all still so close between them. As Krizik tries to make his way through the field, has a 10-second penalty as well, but will do as much as they can out on track. Gets the move done, finally, after the long straight, and is able to get through it. Is that Dragonflies trying to get through as well?
Yeah, finally making that move stick the PHM car. I think Dragonflies is just going to have to hold station for the time being. Infratic still all over the back of Hayden Gullis in the battle for 2nd and 3rd as well. The Van Ansel was pretty much pushing the ART through the first part of the middle sector, but they remain in 2nd and 3rd at the moment. Nearly 5 seconds. Drink that in, folks. We've had, what, 2.5 laps of racing? 5 laps off the... 5 laps. God, there's too much going on. 5 seconds off the back of Dark Viper, who has been in a class of 1 out in front. A-grade performance, and if it doesn't go whoopsies on the final lap, is going to take a commanding victory. Further back, we've still got squabbles going on as Dragonflies tries to muscle their way past the 2nd Invicta of Arseno, but isn't quite close enough to make that move stick into the Fania chicane. F1 Alex still all over the back of F2 Scott, but with that 3-second penalty, Scott is going to lose a couple of places, cover the checkered flag in about 2.5 minutes time.
And the fight is still on for 2nd place as well. And Frantic has been patiently sitting there for a couple of laps, but now it looks like it's time to try and make the move. Hayden Gillis, is he going to have to defend now into the bus stop? You don't really want to be going offline too much. There's so much more water out there. Deep into the brakes, around the outside, switching back. Oh, there's a little bit of a touch between them. He couldn't quite switch back. Just the rear of the car extends a little bit. The nose clips it. We've seen that a few times this race already. Drivers trying to switch across getting caught out, so he can't get it done on this occasion, but we'll be looking for a quick exit out of turn 1. Can they get the run? And looking a lot smoother. Hayden sliding around a little bit at this point of the race, struggling some, and now 6 seconds off the lead of Dark Viper.
Yeah, Hayden almost the master of his own downfall there through the defensive shape into the bus stop. Look at the time Infratic has gained up the hill of Eau Rouge and Radio, and Hayden's going to have to throw the defensive move once again. Try not go as late as on the brakes up towards the what chicane is it? The Lacombe chicane, as he was down into the bus stop. Loads of penalties handed out there in a very short space of time. Luke Howard, one of them, Patterson with a 10-second corner cutting penalty. Hayden manages to defend up the inside and holds on to second. It almost looked like Infratic struggling to get the power down on the exit, trying all he can to get ahead of this ART car. Both of them without penalties. They could be on a couple of warnings. Hayden goes defensive, moves over to the middle of the road. That gives Infratic the opportunity to go balls deep around the outside. And I think he's just going to make it work. Is he? No. I think Hayden's going to just about have the grip to try and keep hold of second place. We're going to be side by side into no-name corner. Once again, Hayden around the outside. That is beautifully done. And somehow in the ART, Hayden holding on to second place.
Absolutely amazing. And this is the difference between these front runners and that mid-pack back battle, because these guys side by side keeping it clean. A close race, and oh, is he going to try and squeeze up the inside there? There's not quite enough room, but these two putting on a show out in front on the final lap here of the feature race. Oh, there's a little bit of a touch, big sideways moment, and Fratic's going to get it down around the outside. Hayden Gillis hanging on, almost lost it, but manages to catch the car. And is that going to be the fight over, or can Hayden try and make something happen right at the end of this lap?
Finally through Fanier, and Fratic gets it done, but makes a mistake in the very next corner, and Hayden Gillis is already right on the back of the Van Amersfoort car as they're all squirming around on the exit of the corner. It's going to be a drag race up towards Blanchimont corner. Hayden's got the inside line and should manage to reclaim second place. Is going to be who's going to be bravest on the brakes down into the bus stop chicane. Hayden gets second place back there, and Fratic trying to keep a wheel alongside. Dark Viper's going to win this race, but we've got to concentrate on the battle for second place. Infratic is very late on the brakes into the bus stop. All 4 wheels locked up almost. He's going to potentially run out of road. Hayden's got to try and enact the switchback. Doesn't quite able to manage to pull it off and cut underneath, and it's going to be Infratic that holds second place to the line.
Oh, what a battle when he does! Infratic in second place, Hayden Gillis in third, and then the battle in the back. Chesnoid didn't have that penalty, so it was F1 Alex who comes home in fourth. Then Chesnoid, Dragonflies, Zach RC, and what a mixed up result. They're still all sliding and battling it out through the final corner, having a little bit of a fun with it in the wet conditions. They come across the line, and what a hectic race we have seen here at Spa.
Patterson must have broke the record. He's got 46 seconds worth of penalties. He just donuts just in front of the line. And as one Van Amersfoort finishes on the podium, the other is going to head up the field, or bring up the rear, sorry. And it's going to be 17th there as B-Roy leaves the session and gets DNF. That won't make any difference because I think B-Roy ended up... was B-Roy 16th over the line? I can't quite remember.
I believe so. Got tangled up a little bit. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to unpack that one because there was so much that was going on. And once again, the F2 Creator Series has produced a great race that comes down to the final lap there. For second place at least, Dark Viper was just in a class of his own today. Picked up the win, and we have to give him a big congratulations. Didn't get all the screen time because he was just so far up the road for most of the race. And even on the restarts, that wasn't enough to stop him. He just pulled the gap out again and dominated today with a clean sweep, first place in every session.
That was potentially the most exciting Creator Series F2 race that I have ever seen. So much action, it came to the point where English almost became a foreign language to be on the final lap there. It was impossible to get any words out. I was getting too excited. That's what we've got to do, be passionate about the race we see, because we love seeing these guys battle. People that, I don't know, I've been fans of for a very long time, to seeing them duel it out for the victory, well not the victory, but podium places is always very exciting to see. Zach RC with the driver of the day, or we'll go through a final rundown of the finishing positions, and then we can, as Patterson drops out of the session, we can finally confirm what happened in that race, because, well, if a highlights package was being made for this, it would have to be about 6 hours long, and we only had 2 hours of racing action, so think about that. Yeah,
absolutely right. Yeah, the highlights is the whole race, but you want to pick it up from multiple angles, right? There was just multiple things happening at the same time that we couldn't even watch it all, so we need to go through and unpack that one, and might have to get the onboards from a few different drivers, because oh my goodness, it was just non-stop, wasn't it? I keep thinking that safety car, oh, we've got a break now. Oh no, the weather's come, the rain's come down, and that's just throwing the whole spanner in the works. And then we thought, that's going to change the strategy in a certain way, and then when they do restart, we got the full safety car. And oh my god, just so much happening.
Final finishing order, Dark Viper obviously out in front. A fastest lap that was comfortably quicker than everybody else. Infratic in second ahead of Hayden Gullis. Then F1 Alex and Chairs rounding out our top 5. Dragonflies along with F1 Alex doing well to come back from that disastrous turn number 1. Zach RC in 7th ahead of Arseno. And then the 2 downs of F2, Scott and Luke Cowick. Adam Sanson just outside the top 10. Crixits Pondon, Bamford and Hoodie Pete Patterson with a record for 46 seconds worth of penalties and end up finishing 2.5 minutes off the race leader. That was pretty fun. I think I'm right in saying.
Oh, I had an absolute ball. I hope the drivers had half as much fun as I have, because that was spectacular. And we did see a chat as well. Luke in the point. So after starting in second, got caught up in that first corner drama as well. It really was all go right from the start, wasn't it? That big crash that took out 3 drivers right at the start managed to come back through and at least pick up some points in that race as well. So not too bad in the end, but they would have been wanting more after a great qualifying performance.
100%. It will have an interesting impact on the Drivers' Championship with Dark Viper picking up a victory in really good form in the feature races, 2nd in Austria, 3rd in Fanbo and in Hungary last week, and now a victory along with a very impressive sprint race performance as well. So the form is right there for Dark Viper, and we'll probably, if we're discounting Lolanoba, I don't know what the situation will be with Lolanoba. I don't know if they'll come back to try and win that Drivers' Championship, but Dark Viper definitely in the battle for 2nd place.
Yeah, absolutely. There has been a bit of banter about whether anyone can catch up to his points total, even if he doesn't come back and doesn't score any more points. But Dark Viper, if they're going to clean sweep it, then you'd have to say in the box seat to move forward. And one driver that we missed out in that feature, Kryzix, he's been fighting with Lolanoba the past 2 weeks. You know, it came down to that last lap battle last week, but this week with Lolanoba gone, we thought it might be an opportunity to see them up the pointy end. But I think the qualifying, where they qualified down in, I think it was 6th place, was Kryzix. So maybe just ending up in that pack and unable to, getting caught up, I guess, in some of the dramas, unable to push forward, and then that 10-second penalty as well. It really just was the nail in the coffin.
Most definitely, and the pace was very strong, unable to keep out of trouble. Should we get prepared to conduct a couple of interviews?
Yes, if any of the drivers are listening, hopefully we can get them to jump into the interview waiting room, and we'll see if we can get a chat and get the perspective of how that one unfolded from the driver's eye.
Definitely, and I think a lot of people are going to have quite a lot to say about what we saw, sprint race or feature race, because whilst it was probably right at the top of the list for highest levels of excitement, it probably wasn't the cleanest race we've ever seen. I think a lot of drivers will admit that.
Yeah, I think most of the field probably has a story, at least in that feature race, about how things went wrong and what could have been. So there was plenty of action, and a number of drivers that did manage to make that recovery, which is good to see. But yeah, like I say, I'm sure there's stories, so it'd be great if we could get them jumping through.
If you were to hand out a driver of the day, people that are still here in chat that are going to stick around, is there a driver of the day you want to give to someone that we've seen an outstanding performance? How did Lolanoba do? Well, they weren't racing today. You'll have to check out tomorrow to see how Lolanoba does, my friend.
Yeah, if you've missed that, Lolanoba's been promoted up to the F1 Creator Series, so they'll be on track tomorrow. And it really, we thought it was going to leave it wide open to a bit more of a race, didn't we? And if we're talking about driver of the day, it's going to be really hard to look past Dark Viper there, who had just the cleanest run. I mean, didn't put a foot wrong, right? Even under the pressure of the restart, starting on pole, they just managed to continue to pull away out in front and dominated at Spa, really.
Yeah, definitely. Max Verstappen-esque, I think you could say. I think we've got a shout for F1 Alex in the chat as well. I don't think that's a bad shout, although was potentially partly responsible for the carnage that we saw on lap number 1.
Yeah, I think we didn't see as much consistency from too many drivers. So if we look at the sprint race results, Dark Viper, Kryzix, F1 Alex on the podium. So F1 Alex, yeah, a good shout. And Dragonflies in 4th. And then come the race result, it was Dark Viper, Infratic, Hayden, and then F1 Alex. So it was only Dark Viper who actually got the back-to-back podiums in both of the races. But so if we talk about,
I think we'll agree on that one then, shall we?
I'm still mentally unpacking everything that went on, because it was just so much to try and catch a breath now that the race is over. But yeah, like we say, Dark Viper. He talked about last week, actually. We asked the question of if he liked the tracks coming up, if he was favouring Belgium, and it was a bit of banter going on, because he'd previously said he didn't like the tracks and then done well at those tracks. So he said, "Oh, I don't like Belgium." We'll see if the jinx works and it ends up well, and it has worked very well. And I think we might even be able to pull Dark Viper in for a chat as well, and see what they think of the track after today. Hello, Dark Viper, do we have you?
Yes.
Congratulations, first off. Mega day of racing for you. You must be stoked.
Oh, I'm so happy. I mean, I went out last night for a nice evening. I didn't get back till 8 this morning. So to do that, I'm more than happy.
Absolutely right. I was just mentioning how last week we were talking about doing well at tracks that you don't like. I think you can reveal the truth now. You must love Spa.
I do now. I've always been wanting to do the double, or even win a feature race with like Lolly and Kryzik. So to get every point this weekend, championship charges on, boys.
Absolutely right. And it was a clean sweep. So in the feature race in particular as well, though, you got away cleanly, but then all that safety car drama, you must have been a bit worried about what was going to happen there, and then the tyre strategies as well.
I thought I was going to go mediums, because like I had a half a second pole gap, so I was like, I'd probably fall in the pack. And then I had such a huge gap. VSC came out, people boxed for wets. The track, it was just getting worse. I could like hardly keep it on the road, and like, I was gutted. And then when I boxed, like as I pulled into the pit lane, the safety car came out, so it just saved me. I think I was a bit worried, because like Hayden, I didn't know if he was going to be able to get me. But I got a good launch and managed to pull the gap with them fighting behind.
Absolutely.
I just want to quickly ask what your reactions are to all the carnage that was going on behind you. How easy is it to keep your head when you know that all the 16 other drivers in the lobby with you are struggling to keep it away from each other, let's say?
Oh, it just took like all the pressure off, because if I made a slight mistake, it didn't mean anything, because I had such a gap. I don't think I'm going to be as quick everywhere else. I was just freakishly good here, apparently.
And it looked like even in the wet. Sorry, I'll jump it in. Looked like even in the wet, you looked comfortable. So had you done much practice in the rainy conditions?
No, I just did a few laps of time trial like before the race, and my tyres were like 85% in the wet. I was panicking. That's why I let the gap drop so much, because I couldn't keep it on the road anymore. It like in the sprint, obviously. It just was all around good. We just had pace everywhere, which I'm not used to that. So.
And for the next couple of races as well, if you are here, those two